Hello and welcome to COVID-19 Local Impact on Your TV. I'm Dan Malta from the Your TV studios in Peterborough. We'll start the show off today with a quick look at the COVID-19 statistics from the area. In the city and county of Peterborough, Hiawatha and Curve Lake First Nations, 86 confirmed positive cases, 2,798 confirmed negative cases, 829 currently under investigation, 2 deaths, and 44 of those confirmed 86 have been resolved. On to the city of Kawartha Lakes, 137 confirmed cases. You'll notice the asterisk beside that. That's because one number was entered multiple times by multiple public health units. 7 hospitalizations, 96 of those 137 cases have been resolved, 32 confirmed deaths, 28 in long-term care homes, and 3 confirmed outbreaks. And in Northumberland County, 13 confirmed cases, 1 hospitalization. All 13 of those cases have been resolved. Earlier in the week, Ontario Premier Doug Ford announced a 3-point plan to reopen the province's economy. Today, Ford details which sectors the province has created guidelines for a safe return to operation.
I want to start by addressing something head on. I know how much people want to get back to work, how much we all want to get back to normal. I hear it, I see it, and I feel it. I know how hard this period has been. I feel your grief for the lives we've lost. I feel your frustration in the face of this enemy. I feel your anxiety about what the future will bring. But I want you to know that despite everything, despite the hardships we have endured, despite the uncertainty ahead of us, despite it all, we have many reasons to be optimistic right now. We have taken a measured approach. We, as a province, 14.5 million people, have taken this fight seriously. We have thrown everything we have at this virus. And because of that, because of you, we have made tremendous progress. Today, we're on the path to reopening the economy, because that curve is flattening. That surge in our hospitals, we avoided it. And that trend is going down. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I am laser focused right now on opening things up as quickly as we can in a safe and measured way. We will open things up in phases as it becomes safe to do so, based on health and science. And on Monday, we laid out our roadmap. We have a process. We have a clear criteria and targets for reopening. And as the trends keep going in the right direction, as we get closer to the targets we need to hit, as we get closer and closer to opening up, today we are giving businesses and workplaces the best guidance available on how to open up safely. Today, we're telling our businesses how to be ready for when we get that green light. We've been working closely with Ontario's health and safety associations. Together, we have developed over 65 sector-specific guidelines for Ontario workplaces. They include guidelines for workers in healthcare, retail, the automotive sector, manufacturing, food processing, tourism and hospitality, restaurant and food service, our agricultural sector, office workers, transit, transportation, and utilities. We have guidelines for the construction sector to promote better sanitation and physical distancing on job sites. And in the coming weeks, we will continue to provide updated advice to protect even more sectors of our economy. These guidelines will help Ontario businesses adapt to the new reality we face and keep workers and customers safe. All of these guidelines, taken together with our framework, provide a strong foundation to help us get the province working again. My friends, this pandemic has turned our lives upside down. It has put our will and our resolve to the test. But we are winning this fight, and we will win this fight. And Ontario will come out of this stronger than ever before. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario.
Premier Ford was also asked about auto insurance rates for Ontarians. He has a stern message for the industry.
Well, I've had this conversation with the finance minister, and I know he's in conversations with the large insurance companies, but a message to the insurance companies, lower your rates. People aren't driving as much. You know, that's my message to them. They have to lower their rates because, again, people aren't driving. The risks to the insurance companies are much lower, but you keep taking their checks. Start lowering the rates for these people. We're hurting, but you need to pitch in too.
Sunshine and warm temperatures are on tap for the weekend. How do you plan to enjoy it? Your TV's Mary Tendeshat speaks with Peterborough Mayor Diane Therrien, who says we need to remember under COVID-19 restrictions, there are areas that will be monitored for group activities.
It's a totally natural human response to want to go outside on the weekends, and that's okay. That's totally understandable. The main thing is to remember that the physical distancing piece still needs to be in effect. And so, our parks and those kinds of spaces remain closed. Trails and sidewalks, those things are open. And so if you are going to use them, we just really ask that people don't congregate in big groups. If you see people that you know on the trail, that you still kind of hang out on either side, letting people pass through the middle, and just respect that space.
The Sports and Wellness Center, as many Peterboroughans are aware, is housing a lot of Peterborough's homeless. With this warmer weather, they may also be inclined to leave the center and start setting up tents throughout the city, as they have in past years. Will the police be doing anything, be more diligent? Are they doing anything special to deal with this?
Certainly, I understand why you would prefer to be in a tent than in a crowded gym. I mean, people pay every summer to go camping. But we do have bylaws in the city that prohibit camping or erecting of a structure like that in public parks. And campgrounds are closed. Beavermead, the only campground in the city, is closed under provincial direction because though, going and camping doesn't, facilitate physical distancing. People would be inclined then to want to have a campfire, want to go visit each other. So police have already for, a couple of weeks been monitoring where folks have been trying to, live rough and erect those structures. And they are, told that they need to be taken down, and they are.
The medical officer of health for the Haliburton-Kawartha Pine Ridge Health Unit, Dr. Lynn Noseworthy, tells Your TV's Mark Rockburn people should not be complacent when they see the low numbers of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Northumberland and Haliburton.
The numbers are dependent on who goes to get tested. So if people don't go to get tested, we won't know if they're positive or negative. People have been going to be assessed if they've had symptoms. But we found that some people who have no symptoms may actually test positive. So people should not be complacent if they look at the numbers on our website with regard to Northumberland County and Haliburton County, because there may be people out there who are infected and don't know it, or who are infected and don't realize that the mild symptoms they have may be COVID-19. So people, as they say, should not be complacent. Just assume everybody has it and practice physical distancing, wash your hands, stay home, that kind of thing.
Do you know what the Haliburton-Kawartha Pine Ridge rates are compared to the provincial average?
It depends where you're doing the comparison. We had an outbreak, as you know, in Pinecrest, which is located in the city of Kawartha Lakes. And so our numbers for CKL are a lot higher than the rest of our health unit area. But if you remove those numbers from the data, our numbers are comparable to health units of similar size, except for the fact that we've had this large outbreak.
Your reaction yourself to the province recently announcing on Monday that in the coming weeks we may see the easing of some of the restrictions and having some of our services open back up again, and what you see the impact of the health unit would be once we see those starting to open back up again.
Well, the fact that the province has released a framework just means it's set up a framework for this to happen. It'll be dependent on the data that are collected provincially as to when the province decides to move forward with that. It's a fine balance that has to be created between opening up some restrictions and then monitoring what's going on provincially. So that process will take weeks, if not months, to play out. And so we want to make sure that by easing restrictions, we are not overwhelmed by new cases, and that we don't have to worry about our hospitals getting overwhelmed with people who are very ill and who require ventilation.
What are you expecting, or what can people expect when the province loosens the reins? Should they expect to see another spike once again?
To see an increased number of cases, but that will be monitored very closely. And as I said, it'll be a staged approach, and the province will monitor data to determine the fact that these things have been modified to allow more activity within the community. How much of an impact does it have on the number of cases provincially?
With the weather starting to get a little nicer outside, people are starting to get a little antsy being inside with the kids, wanting to get outside and enjoy this warm weather. What is the message now to those people compared to what it was maybe when this first started, when COVID-19 first started off?
The message is still the same. People should practice physical and what we call social distancing. So that's about the length of a hockey stick apart. People should wash their hands. They should stay home as much as possible. However, recognizing that the weather is turning warmer and people will want to be outside. If they do go outside, they should stay within their own immediate family group and then practice physical distancing from anybody else that they meet along the way. They should always think about avoiding people who are over the age of 65 or who have underlying medical issues, because those people are more susceptible to developing more severe forms of the infection.
Municipal Matters is a regular program on Your TV Northumberland. Host York Bell Smith speaks with the mayors of both Cobourg and Port Hope to get regular updates on what is happening in their communities. The show took a hiatus due to COVID-19, but on Wednesday, York caught up with the mayors and they talked about running their towns and the county during COVID-19.
Step and lock and step together. Also probably enhanced to some degree because of the amount of dialogue that the mayors, are having, which are also council members. So I see the department meetings now probably expanding potentially to some degree, because if you can't get to that meeting before physically, perhaps you can now, on a virtual basis. So I'm very comfortable that the county business is proceeding as normal, recognizing as well, York, that what the county does is different than what the municipalities do. There's a far overreaching social requirement, long-term care that is occupying a lot of time, and the staff, the paramedics. This is an area where I don't think people understand exactly how much the county does in that area, and these are the people who are probably at the front of the line when it comes to taking risk and making sure that the rest of us are safe, and particularly the more vulnerable, which has been a very high topic, and I hope one that continues after this pandemic, where we start to recognize some of this work that's being done that was perhaps, in my opinion, shifted to the side. Like, yeah, it's there, but how big a problem is it? So the county is doing a great job forging forward. It is kind of interesting to some degree, sort of like yourself, York. Who can get a haircut? Who can shave?
Right.
You're at home. The kids run in. The dog barks. It kind of humanizes the whole thing.
I've been broadcasting my show from home since right after March break. Pretty much haven't left, and yeah, it's exactly that. It's the background noise. It's adding some real life to it that you don't get when you're in that official business setting. So, John, I'll start with you on this one about people working from home. Your staff working from home. Were there any issues at the beginning with getting people set up to be able to do that effectively?
From our end, no. We were well versed from our IT. Any glitch was easily resolved. So in terms of those continuous, Bob said, I don't think we've lost a heartbeat in any department, in particular planning and development. We continue to have a number of permits and projects in Coburg. If you were to go to Glenn McGlashan's board, I think it would fill 2 walls.
Right.
And as Bob said, we haven't lost one heartbeat. The only thing we're going to have to learn to deal with, we're very used to having public meetings in Coburg traditionally, but the question is, how do we bring that in virtually? And that's the next step that we'll be looking at as those site plans come forward to council.
And how many people are actually going to work? Is there anybody that's going to work at Victoria Hall?
A very, I would say, skeleton crew. Occasionally I go in maybe once, twice a week to sign certain documents. The clerk may be there, Mr. Davies, some members of finance, but I would say ultimately it really is a skeleton crew on shifts, on rotations. And the reason for that is because if someone were to receive unfortunate news, then as we all know, they, like everybody else, have to be isolated for 14 days. That allows us to bring in other individual in. So therefore, we're not losing any continuity
Right.
Within our departments.
You can tune into Your TV Northumberland if you're in the Northumberland viewing region tonight and watch a new episode of Queen's Park Report at 7 p.m. and Municipal Matters at 7:30. Many community support organizations are finding new ways of operating during COVID-19. Your TV's Marcus Ferguson speaks with the John Howard Society of Kawartha Lakes and Haliburton Executive Director Lois Powers about how they're adapting.
We provide services in connection with crime prevention. So we work with people who've been in conflict with the law and those who are at risk of. And we support their families throughout this process as well. So we also deliver services at Central East Correctional Center, which of course we're now doing remotely and through the phone because we're not able to provide programs directly in the institution due to COVID, but we're continuing to provide services remotely for the individuals in the institution. Well, the way that they've changed predominantly is that we're doing more things online with our clients, more remote services, but we're continuing to reach these people and provide the supports that they need. And in reference to our residents, of course, more social distancing, and we're practicing all of the recommended protocols. For the most part, I would say most are working from home. Some do go into the office from time to time, practicing social distancing if there's a client that's in crisis, and the only way that they could work with us would be to see us face to face. But that's all done through social distancing. Everything's happening so quickly, and we really don't want to leave any one person behind. That's what this is all about. So I would say that we're flexible, we're responsive, and we're open to doing whatever we can to help the community out during this challenging time. To date, we're doing fine funding-wise. We're finding funders incredibly supportive and very open to looking at new ideas, creative responses during this time period. I would say that all of our funders have been totally on board and really listening to what needs to happen in the community and there to help us. Our agency works in collaboration with Kawartha Lakes Police Services, and they have been a fantastic partner throughout all of our work, and definitely during this time of COVID-19. They connect with us around people that are in crisis in the community, who wouldn't have access to technology and are needing supports. And we can make arrangements to work with those people in person, again, practicing social distancing.
As COVID-19 local impact continues, more cancellations in the local sports scene. Welcome back to COVID-19 Local Impact on Your TV. I'm Dan Malta. Trent University recently launched TRENT Talks, a virtual interactive series offering timely, reliable, and thought-provoking information about COVID-19. Distance learning is how students continue to be educated from home. It can cause anxiety for both parents and their children. In this TRENT Talks clip, they discuss ways to deal with this new teaching environment.
Students are facing anxiety. We are all facing anxieties now. I mean, we're in a completely different world. So you talked about math anxiety. I mean, there's probably a lot of other anxieties that students are facing. So maybe Denise, you could chime in on, what can parents do to soothe their children's worries and indeed their own worries?
Well, I think a lot of what Kathy said about math applies to any other subject as well. I would say a lot of parents or caregivers right now are really fighting with their kids to do their work, and the fighting is taking a toll on everybody. And so, one thing to focus on is that it's probably less important to get through all the work and more important to focus on approaches. And so, with my daughter, we've been working on time management a little bit. And I said, look, you've got this, the teacher assigns the week's worth of work on Monday. You can do a little bit every day. You can do a lot one day and take the next day off. You decide. So she's in the driver's seat and she gets to figure out those skills as well as actually getting the work done. But my good friend's teacher said, none of the work is as important as focusing on 3 H's, and those are happiness, health, and harmony. And the reality is we are doing this home learning in a pandemic. It is different than when people elect to homeschool their kids on a typical, in a typical year. And so there is stress. People are worried about loved ones, and it is sad not to be able to see your friends when you're young, for all of us really. And so it's okay to acknowledge those stressors and say, we know when people are stressed out, they are less likely to learn. So let's put less pressure on covering the material and more emphasis on harmony. How can we make this fun? How can we take the stress out of it? We'll get done what we get done, but I don't think it's worth the fight for most of our families.
It's also not a race. We're not racing to get to some magic curriculum here. It's more, children will catch up when they get back to school as well. So it's more as Denise is saying, try and find some enjoyment with it. Have your children do things that they love to do. Maybe they love to read, or maybe they love to paint, or whatever it may be. Providing them those opportunities are equally important.
You can watch the full episodes of Trent Talks Tuesdays at 8 p.m. right here on your TV, or visit trentu.ca/Trent Talks. The Peterborough Baseball Association has announced the cancellation of its House League program for the 2020 season. In an effort to eliminate any financial burden on families, they'll be fully refunding anyone who has already registered for the House League season. No registration fees will be held or carried over to the 2021 baseball season. The rep ball season, though, could still be played. The Canadian Forces Snowbird's signature 9-jet formation with trailing white smoke will be flying across the country starting in Nova Scotia this weekend and working west throughout the week. The team will release anticipated locations, routes, and times on their social media platforms each day. Flyovers will occur at an elevation no lower than 500 feet above all obstacles. Now we ask you to send us your pet pics during COVID-19 with your furry friend's name and a caption of what they are up to during the pandemic. Look for @YourTVPTBO on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. They could be featured on an upcoming episode of COVID-19 Local Impact as well as on our social media platforms. Now we'll end with this, a message from County Warden J. Murray Jones and Peterborough Medical Officer of Health Dr. Rosanna Salvatierra, as they have a message for cottagers ahead of the weekend. For your TV, I'm Dan Malta, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hello, I'm Dr. Rosanna Salvatierra, Peterborough's Medical Officer of Health.
And I'm Warden J. Murray Jones of Peterborough County.
We have an important message to pass along.
But first, let's acknowledge the fact that we're all in this together.
And as any good hockey coach or theater director
or successful business owner will tell you, teamwork is the key to success.
We are a very big team right now.
Oh, and more than ever, we must work together.
And believe us when we say
we can't wait to watch hockey.
Or go to some local theater or to a good restaurant.
Or just plain go out.
It's been a challenge, to say the least.
And as the warmer weather pops up,
the bigger challenge will be around cottaging.
We know cottage owners are looking for clarity about whether or not they can visit their property.
The good news is the physical measures are working, but we must stay the course and stay home to avoid spreading COVID-19 to other communities.
Well, now is a crucial time to hold fast to the public health guidance, to stay home and self-isolate.
The April data shows that 60% of the new COVID cases are occurring in the GTA, where there's a greater amount of community spread, while smaller communities like ours are seeing a much slower rate of new cases.
We all need to do our part and keep up the physical distancing. Avoid gatherings over 5.
While it is possible to bring all your supplies with you and only visit the cottage with your household contacts, the province is asking that we limit all non-essential travel during this emergency order.
In Peterborough County, many services are closed down for the time being, like marinas or non-essential businesses, and some of the roads may not be maintained. Our local year-round residents are worried about COVID-19 spreading into this area, especially when so many new cases are being reported in the major urban areas.
The request to avoid the cottage is only temporary, and the more cottagers who stay at home now, the quicker we can end these public health measures. We're not ready to let down our guard and relax our physical distancing measures just yet.
Our message is clear. Please, stay home for just a few more weeks until this pandemic emergency is over.
Thank you for helping us and for doing the right thing. And remember, if you're experiencing any symptoms of COVID-19, please stay home, don't travel anywhere, and get yourself tested.
Simply put, the best thing you can do is please stay home. We may be apart, but we're in this together. Thank you for your time.